Hey, did you hear the news? Michael Jackson's dead. How sudden was that? I heard him on the radio just the other day. But in other news, the following companies, the Virgin Qantas, the Chad Virgin, Domino's, yeah, there's a reference for people will remember, but it's a good one. Netflix, MasterCard, they don't pay shit in tax. What a real kick in the leprechaun hat to us fine citizens of Ireland for tax purposes. The reason I'm drawing your attention to this is because Labor's just introduced a raft of legislation to crack down on corporate tax evasion and make companies like Qantas finally pay their fair share. Which is exactly why you've been endlessly hearing in the Murdoch press, Anthony Albanese gets business class flight upgrades on Qantas. Oh, okay, so the guy that just made them pay billions in tax, he's in their pockets. Is that what you're going with? Yep. Look at how comfy business class chairs are. What a Donald Trump eats Maccas on his private jet and even comfier chairs. Man of the people. Sky News, where schizophrenia meets dementia. We've touched on this topic before, but we're going to have to talk about it again because I really don't think that you understand how big this is. As we all know, multinationals treat Australia like Australians treat Bali. If they want to pay their fair share, they will, and if they don't, dine and dash. You know what percentage of big companies are dining and dashing? Nearly a third. That's the number paying $0 in tax. That means those that aren't paying anywhere near what they should be paying, that's got to be somewhere around the area of 100%. So make no mistake about it. I'm really f***ing jealous of these companies, and if I could, I'd do the same thing. But I can't say f*** them. You know how much corporate tax evasion costs the world every year? $500 billion. You thought that was going to be in Mexican pesos. No, US. $500 billion. Just to give you an idea of how much money that is, you could end extreme global poverty and have enough money left over to give every child in the world an education. Why would you do that when you can increase how much we already take the piss out of writing off driving in our own cars for personal reasons as a business expense? So make no mistake about it, this has got to be one of the biggest problems in the world. Well, apart from us all wondering what John Malkovich's penis looks like. I'm guessing it looks like the baby from Coneheads. But like all big problems, it's not easy to solve. Like, to give you an idea of what the world is up against, Nike, the brand most famous for Magneto sunglasses, they transferred billions of dollars to their Bermudan subsidiary, which held their intellectual property rights. So their swoosh logo, Oscar Pistorius, I'm guessing. They then charged royalty fees back to their European headquarters for the use of their own IP, which allowed them to exploit Bermuda's zero tax. So this is how hard it is to trace tax evasion. You literally have to go into the fucking Bermuda Triangle. That's just one magic trick these mega companies have. One. That's what's so annoying about the whole independent thinker crowd that ironically get their thinking done by a think tank. So the independents, the Greens, one overly simplistic point that they just blanket out every time. Hey guys, just raise resource taxes on multinational companies. It's not like we have multiple examples in history, one literally in the most recent election of what happens when you do that. I mean, you know, sure, you lose government immediately to the Tories, but by endlessly repeating that, I get to maintain my seat in a gentrified area. And in the end, isn't that all that really matters? Let's just put aside the fact that every time Labor's trying to do that, they have been crushed because the mining companies will pump the election with dark money. Let's just put aside that minor inconvenience for a second. Okay, you raise taxes to what? 70%? 90%? Does it matter at all if the company could say, let's just say your argument moved me to Bermuda? Oops, I said the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet. This triangle does some weird things to your perception. This is how you can tell that the crossbench are not tethered to reality and at best are extremely incompetent and stupid because they don't seem to be able to connect the dots. That step one is stopping tax evasion. And unlike getting up in Parliament and reading an Australia Institute press release for fucking 200 grand a year, that is not an easy task. And yet despite this, Australia is leading the charge in voting down the UN's proposal to deal with tax evasion. But you know, that's so we don't have to deal with some of them loser countries. After all, the UN model is basically asking for more input from developing nations while we are already implementing the model for the first class UN for ballers, the OECD, based and first world peeled lad. The first step is, and this doesn't sound massive, but it is, making these corporations publicly declare their tax information in the country that they actually earned it in. That means, for the first time ever, money won't just disappear into the Bermuda Triangle. We'll actually know how much they earned and where they earned it. That's going to make properly taxing these companies way easier if Gucci isn't pretending that in fucking France, I didn't earn shit this year, no? Labor's also closing a bunch of loopholes. I won't bore you with the details, but what is really important is that they're properly funding the ATO, which is why they now have more precise, specific information, which means that they can finally actually chase these companies down. And look, it's already paying huge dividends. Nearly 100 billion collected from big corporations this year. That is up by almost a fifth of what it was last year, which again, you never hear any of these whinge merchants who seem to have this one talking point of, oh, Middle Eastern dictatorships get more for their resources. Labor's increased the amount of money we're getting from our resources fivefold from what it was when the Liberals were in and they killed the mining tax. This is only the beginning too, as more legislation and crackdowns are going to be taking place, and yet they still go on and on and on about the majors being a uni party. Uni party? You know what the Liberal Party will do if they get in? Kill these reforms. That's one of their only stated policies. That and of course cutting your wages. I can see why this visibly horrifying man is so popular. You know what the Liberals' plan is? Isn't this incredible? They're going to replace Labor's policy of companies being forced to show how much they earn with what they call a self-assessment mechanism. It's incredible. So, you avoiding any tax or... Not to my knowledge. Oh, okay, well, my work's done here. Sorry to bother you. That means after the Liberals inevitably go back to crippling the ATO, so I can't even look into this stuff. Even if it somehow does look into this stuff, they don't have to reveal anything to the government. Legally, they could just file it under commercially sensitive information, and that's that. The information is hidden for 5 years. That is especially bold even for the Liberal Party. Usually when the Liberals destroy one of Labor's nation-building policies, they do something remotely PR-y like, no, we're still rolling out the broadband nationally, we're just replacing fibre cables with a mailman monkey-barring across existing phone lines. If you're using Telstra, they put lead in my backpack so I'm even slower. This isn't even that. The Liberals' policy is to go one step further than just allowing tax evasion. They want to legalise tax evasion. No difference, eh? Major corporations know there's no difference between the two majors either. That's why they're already marshalling to pull a Queensland, chucking millions into scare campaigns. Lobby groups that represent tobacco, mining, petrol, Amazon, Nestle, News Corp, they're all lobbying Labor hard to drop these reforms. In fact, this is how world-leading Labor is. Other OECD nations, they're allies in the fight to close loopholes. They're lobbying Labor to drop some of their reform agenda. That's how hard they're going. The Corporate Tax Australia Association put out a media release including News Corp, Qantas and QBE. It's honestly astonishing. Time and again, Australia elects a Labor government. They go in and bat for the biggest, hardest fight they possibly can. So big that it's literally them against the world. You have the OECD, as usual, sitting on the sideline thinking, holy shit, look at these crazy motherfuckers. While at home, you have the crossbench, which is just a reflection of upper middle class narcissism saying it's not good enough, while they don't do shit to help the biggest fight of a generation easily. And you have the press slamming them for, I don't know, elbow buying a house or some stupid shit that they cooked up that week. And this video is to let you know that this is all linked to Labor fighting to end corporate tax evasion. This is the federal version of Queensland Labor trying to tax the coal companies. Remember they did that and they got $9.4 billion in mining royalties over 2 years? Obviously companies don't want to pay that. Way cheaper to chuck a few million into a manufactured attention diverting scare campaign to get them out. I mean, it was pretty fucking stupid to get that house. But still, whatever the press pretends the next election is about, this is what it's really about. The reason the press has really soured to federal Labor, the reason you'll see dark money pumped into the next election is purely because Labor's taking on the biggest fight of all, which is corporate tax evasion. And as usual, a lot of whinging about, oh, they've given up on franking credits. No credit for this. Fucking beach mansion too.